There is no right next step. And more importantly, back to Jerry's fun joke of show me the money, I think one of the most important things every single person has to think about here, and it's, you know, it's funny when you said, I don't know which post it was about gratitude, and when I said to myself, I'm like, right, because all of them are. Something I'm really starting to understand, because, you know, again, some of you have been following me longer than others, like a lot of these words, gratitude or empathy, it took me a little while to define them, because I was just living as a human, making content and really not having the greatest vocab and being a good student. I also didn't even necessarily put words to them, and over time, whether I read a comment and who knows why I got to the actual words that helped me frame them, but no question, in that same process, the thing that is beating heavy in my mind and my heart over the last 3 months, and especially over the last 2 to 3 weeks, is happiness over money. In a real way, I mean it. I really mean it. And let me explain what I mean by that. You would probably be shocked if you actually understood how much money I leave on the table consistently and have my whole life. You know, it's one thing to say it now when I make a lot of, I get it, but you know, again, and some of you know this, like to go from 22 to 34 and never make $100,000 a year and build a humongous business for somebody else and then leave at 34 years old and start from zero. Vaynermedia started in a conference room of another company because I didn't have money to have like co-working didn't exist yet. It would have probably been WeWork or something, like, right? It's super important for several of you in a row, really was a side, to like really hear me on this, which is there is no right answer. There's no right answer. Like if you're gonna do real estate investment over Etsy because it seems theoretically that there's more money in it, but the 2 products you sell on Etsy are like in your soul and you like it, I can rest assured that I can give you tactics of how to build a Shopify store and run Etsy and run ads on Facebook that over time, my belief is that when you're laying in bed from, you know, especially at 5 children, everything that's going on, that 9 p.m. to 2 in the morning, which is maybe your only shot to like really put in like clean time to execute against this, if you're not fired up about like searching on Zillow or like talking to a Facebook group about places or like emailing somebody of like, hey, is that corner of Michigan Street and is that if that doesn't excite you, you're not gonna have the energy to do that from 9 to midnight versus if it excites you like crazy of like your honey-based facial cream and you love it more than everything, you're gonna be in the comments and replying to everybody. And so on a very serious note, I really mean this, and it's a good, you know, normally I go right into questions, but I wanted to set this up. There is no right answer. Like I never overthink my next step. Vaynermedia might have been the wrong answer. K-Swiss might have been the wrong answer. Empathy Wines might have been the wrong answer if you're asking the question of what's the maximum use of your time for money. As a matter of fact, actually, let me take a step back. I know all of those things are the wrong answer. The right answer in the way that people ask the question here, which is what's the right business move to have maximized dollars, for me, was to start a $500 million fund, get paid 2% of it each year just to deploy the capital, make one more right guess in my career that looked like Uber, Facebook, Twitter, nail it, and make $1 billion on the back end of an IPO of the next Airbnb. Or that was the right thing for me to do in the way you're asking the question. The right thing for me to do, because I knew myself as a human, was to build Vaynermedia, enjoy the process of building something, manage 1,000 people because I like feelings and people and all that. That was the right thing for me. In the same way that it was the right thing for AJ to quit Vaynermedia because he hated managing people's feelings and this and that, and he likes the sports agency. So I mean this, like, and I mean it very heavily. I genuinely believe in changing the world and impacting it and however you view it and what the funnel that is. We have to change the conversation to happiness over financial success. It was like, we have to. We have to, and I mean that. I really, really, really genuinely mean it, and I'll tell you why. Back to giving brings and giving and wait 2 more years, and me, listen very carefully. The formula is basic. If you're able to disproportionately bring more value over time, you have unbelievable leverage, and if you choose to monetize it financially, great, but if you don't, and so, you know, for example, I've never scaled into e-learning and things of that nature because I'm not trying to maximize the money and like recording one program and then selling it for $49. I could sell 49 million of those. I could. And by the way, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. It's amazing. You should do whatever the hell you want. But in the answer of you should do whatever the hell you want, I think it's important, and let's take advantage of us being here, to be thoughtful about what actually makes you tick. What actually makes you tick? Because I'll tell you, me leaning in so heavy to what made me tick continues to give me disproportionate value to create unprecedented wealth if I choose to. If I choose to. And so I think that's important. And I think it's gonna really play out for half this room, because you've already got certain things that are successful. And then it's funny where I just went, which is that naturally segues into, what do you need the money for? The other important part of this question for everybody is, how much does your lifestyle cost and why? I'm really fascinated by people buying homes that have more rooms than they need. Do they buy cars with logos, that logos that are trying to impress somebody else? Like, what do you need? And so I don't know, I do think that, ironically, the floatier and ideological and like warm and fuzzy and like the more ridiculous this sounds, which is like, hey, like do nice things and live, is actually very real to me. And I believe in it, mainly because when you do it in today's environment where it's being documented, it allows you to have an insurance policy if after 9 years of giving and living simply, you change your mind and you wanna fucking have a boat and a fucking mansion. What has happened during that time is you've built up the leverage to you were not gonna sell $1 million worth of stuff 2 years ago, I remember.
I had 24,000 followers then, now I'm almost at 100.
And so what would have happened was you would have started the process of monetizing your audience, which changes the dynamic of you and your audience immediately.
It does.
Even look at the meta version of this. I am uncomfortable to do this myself with an audience. I have to do it in the framework of being on tour on a speaking engagement because I don't want to monetize my audience. Like, I love when you say, I wanted to give you dollars back, that what I said in my head, yeah, rev sharing with the partners on the tour, and that makes me happy. That's what I want. I very easily do not need to rev share with a tour or other people. I could send one post and be like, give me the money, come and hang out with me. You'd pay me more if I put in a setting that was warm and fuzzy, like come to Wine Library for today. That's even more exciting. But that's not what I want. And so I really, really, really think it's important. Like, I don't think people get stretched in. I'm stirring like NashvilleNectars.com. You like it. You like it. You like it.
I love having this service available just in case.
Correct.
I'm serious.
I understand. I do understand, and I don't think you have to narrow in and like really choose. Like, everybody pushes this notion that if you don't go deep on something, you're scattered. That's for them. That is true for some people. Some people are incapable of juggling 8 balls. I can juggle 34 because I like when 8 of them drop. The people that are telling you to focus on one thing, they can't deal with losses. So when they do 2 things and one fails, which is inevitable because you're dispersing your energy, that's the way it is. Or the energy comes from doing multiple things. I get energy from a random K-Swiss meeting, which then helps me run VaynerMedia. VaynerMedia runs better because I have empathy and baseball cards and the occasional Wine Library call and being Gary Vee in Nashville. It helps it because I need that, escapism, but still in the form of business. I use all these businesses the way people use golf and skiing and meditating. Do you understand? That's me. And a lot of people are actually like that. It's called being an entrepreneur. You are kinetic and ridiculous and random ideas and bouncing around and overjudging yourself that when you're going to taste something else real quick, that you're losing focus over here. You shouldn't do that. Now, what I'll tell you is that all sounds fine and dandy. If you don't use an arbitrary number, 80% of your energy on your core as an entrepreneur, then you might get, 6%, might just be too much, and you need something that grounds you and supports it. And this is back to Etsy and real estate investing. Real estate investing, to your point, with no capital is a challenging game, right? You can go spend your time and raise capital from people, right? But one of the reasons, if you even just look at my content evolution, that I'm so interested in Shopify or Etsy or going to thrift stores and flipping is everybody's spending all their time trying to raise money because that's the thing to do. And I'm trying to teach people how to make money so that they're not at the mercy of people to raise money. It's just gonna take longer. I built a $200 million business with VaynerMedia. We didn't raise money, started in the conference room. I limited my expenses. I didn't pay anybody anything at first and said, I got you if you believe in me, like, you know, over time. Like, so it's very, you know, just kind of going around. I think that was a good starting point because I think it changes the question and I think it gives you time to really think about it because there is no right for who. Like, right for who? Like, and by the way, I do not judge maximizing financial upside. I'm just wanting to make sure that you know that's where you're at. Is that where you're at? And I'll tell you what makes that message different today than 30 years ago. The internet. People have to understand this. The practicality of doing something as narrow as selling raspberry jam was impossible. You know, doing raspberry jam as your side hustle after you worked at your mortgage company at night in 1987 was impossible. You weren't gonna start a company like that. You weren't gonna be able to get into Whole Foods or ShopRite or Albertsons. It was impossible. The ridiculousness of the possible in an Instagram and Shopify world of selling your raspberry jam because you make it at home, then you ship it to 50 influencers and one posts it and starts the process of awareness and the cost of Shopify is nothing. And like it's very scary to me in a great way how possible everything is with the internet. And that's why these kind of foofy things that seemed way more foofy 40 years ago to me, let alone to, you know, are just not as foofy. It's just not, it's not. You can really do those things, but the question is you have to know what you're up to. You have to know what you're up to. And you have to know if it's like, shit, I've got to provide for 5 children financially. Well, anybody here who needs money faster is already in a more dangerous spot. It's just the way it is, right? You know this from looking at, like, it is. I don't know. Putting your money into the lottery is mathematically a bad investment. You know, like, right? Like, getting overfunded and the burn rate, this is what's happening to every startup. Smart kids, Stanford, Harvard, they're raising too much capital, then the money burns, and then they're spending all their time trying to raise more capital. They're not building a business. They're not spending time with their customers. That's what's happening. That's why it works. What? Guys, it's very simple. Amazon's the biggest company in the world and is dominant because they're religious about customers. I am who I am in the marketplace because I am religious about you guys. I don't want anything from you. I just want you to tell me something good happened from what I did for you. That is the fulfillment. That feels better. Admiration over cash. Not super complicated. And for real, not like 99% of people who say that, but then have a funnel on the back end to have you pay them $4.99 a month. And that, and I'm saying this because I want to make sure you're hearing me probably, there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't pretend that's not what you're doing. Yeah. If you're gonna start selling information, own it. Yeah. Don't act that you're doing Jesus's work or you're the greatest person, but then on the back end, pay me $7.39 a month. That's right. Yeah. Right? That's what everybody does, and that's why you don't like them, and that's why they're different than me. It's not super complicated. That's why they're different.